Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Scott Ott with Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, and this is your Right Angle Backstage meeting. It's not really a show, so to speak.
Well, that's absolutely true.
Oh, it is so far from a show.
Shows imply forethought. A show like
Quality.
there would be a plan, that there would be some level of
structure,
of premeditation.
Somewhere in the background,
interest.
Paul McCartney is singing "That's Entertainment" backwards.
That's right. Right, buried Paul. Okay, so anyway, this is the thing we do. We get together each week, and we used to do this, by the way, for years before you ever got to see it. We'd have this meeting where we would talk about what was coming up in this week's episodes, and then we finally discovered that, wow, what an awesome idea for cheap content for something we're already doing. So, all we have to do is turn the camera on, and we could put this out as if it were something worth having. But I think it is, actually. I found that I think our meetings get better because you're here.
That's absolutely true.
And if only because now we all wear clothing and stuff. So this week I actually have
from here up, Scott, from here up.
From the sternum upward. So this week I have the privilege, which we hashed out before the show, of hosting the members-only episode in addition to the regular episode. And I've had to winnow my original list of 363 potential news stories down to just 2. And I did that simply by taking the 2 that were at the bottom of the list and culling all the rest. And you guys can help me decide which one of these should be members-only. But here are the 2 stories. The number 1 is a story that I believe I got from the Washington Post it's about an individual, and the media is really good at doing this, and we're not. They find one person who's affected by some sweeping policy, and they highlight that person. Left has been really good at this, and in this case, it was actually, I thought, a meritorious thing they did that drew attention to a larger issue. There's this guy whose name I won't even try to pronounce, who came to us originally as an immigrant from South Korea, and brought his family over here, immediately joined the military, served his new country, became a citizen, and then when his kids grew up and left home, he and his wife kind of fulfilled a long-time dream that they had of owning a business, and they bought a gas station, or started a gas station. So they're running this gas station. Anyway, they ran afoul of the IRS in the course of running this gas station, because periodically, like many small businesses do, they deposited money in the bank. God forbid they should do this, because this is this is just capitalism after all. And what happens is, if you deposit more than $10,000 in the bank has to report that to the federal government. Because the idea is that if any kind of terrorist or drug activity is going on, they'll probably involve large sums of cash, and so the bank is mandated to report this to the government. However, if you deposit less than $10,000 in the bank, then the bank doesn't have to report it unless you repeatedly deposit less than $10,000 in the bank, and that's called structuring.
Yep.
That's essentially, you're structuring your deposits to fly under the radar. Now, a lot of businesses, including this guy, basically said, look, the banker told me that if I deposit more than $10,000, I got to do extra paperwork. I don't like paperwork. I don't have time for that. So he basically admitted that he was depositing less than the $10,000 threshold. So the government comes in and takes all his money, $59,000 and some change, okay?
God.
They later determine that the guy had no criminal intent whatsoever other than the desire to avoid having to do extra paperwork. Ruined his business. The stress was really hard on his wife. His wife, afterward, actually came, I don't know how you say this properly, I was going to say came down with cancer, but she had cancer. And she passed away, and the husband thinks that the stress of the financial trauma and the government attack and all that made it worse. Well, anyway, long story short, this has been a number of years now. They've determined that the guy didn't do anything wrong, but the IRS won't give him his money back.
Good God on him! This is just not the United States anymore.
As late as August, when they requested it again and said, "Hey, how about we get the money back?"
This is not America anymore.
The IRS is out of control. And even I can't remember who said this, but it's absolutely true. And it might have been a Supreme Court justice. The Constitution stops where the IRS starts.
That's right.
The Income Tax Amendment gives them essentially unlimited power to collect taxes. In fact, I can take out the word essentially. It gives them unlimited power to collect taxes, and boy, do they use it.
You know, I find a hard time coming up with an analogy for this, but the whole idea is basically we've given the government carte blanche to take preemptive action against potential crimes where no hint of a crime exists. You know, and so that we can sweep up in the dragnet the possibility that somebody might be doing something illegal. It's akin to some of the stuff that goes on with the TSA, where you can't take a 4-ounce bottle of shampoo on a flight because it's possible that terrorists might use a 4-ounce bottle of shampoo to hide some sort of chemical explosive. And in this case, you know, it's not like there's some suggestion that this man who was running a gas station was doing anything wrong. It's just he was like, oh, crap, I got to do this paperwork, so let's avoid doing that. And then the government takes all your money and keeps it.
Shuts you down.
Anyway, so that's my...
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's my one suggested topic.
That's an awesome topic, and we got to make that one public. That just drives me insane.
Agreed.
Okay, now the other one is actually hits a little closer to home for me. And when I saw this, you could have knocked me over with a baseball bat. That's how surprised I was. So here, the first line of the story says, a federal judge has ordered a Pennsylvania county to remove the cross from its seal, the county seal, saying it violates the Constitution. Now, I'll give you one guess as to which county this might be that has the cross on its seal.
Wait. Which county is Austin in?
No. This is Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. Oh,
yeah.
Sorry. You said close to home, and I thought maybe it wasn't just the cross. I thought maybe it was a Texas story.
Because some time ago, I walked into a meeting room in this very county, and I looked up, and the first thing I noticed was the centrally located emblem, the seal of this county. I later became a candidate for office in that county, and I was later elected to the Board of Commissioners of this county, and I never made a peep about this. But the moment I saw that crest, I thought, you know what? That ain't going to last long.
Yeah.
And it is the county of Lehigh, Pennsylvania. And right in the middle of they have a bunch of stuff on it. There's the county courthouse, there's a cross, there's a heart, there's a lamp of knowledge, there's a cow, there's...
Hey, doesn't that lamp of knowledge discriminate against stupid people?
I think it does. The American flag, and there's a bunch of other things that, an overall, different things that symbolize that county. But now this federal judge has ordered Lehigh County, Pennsylvania, to remove the cross from the seal because, in their mind, in the judge's mind, it constitutes an establishment of religion, a violation of the Establishment Clause, and it's the Freedom from Religion Foundation brought the case.
Yeah, who's the judge? Who appointed him?
That's a good idea. It's U.S. District Judge Edward Smith, although I don't know who appointed him. I'll have to... it'll take me about 4 days because searching Ed Smith on Google probably turns up a few answers.
I don't know. It's a pretty obscure name.
So, anyway, this is just another one of these things where, last week we did a story about how a federal judge basically said, had ruled in favor at first anyway of a woman who said she was a member of the Satanic Temple that was traumatized by the fact that she had to read a brochure before she got an abortion. And so, here the judicial branch, rules for this person. And now it goes the other way and says, hey, my goodness, if you have a cross, and most of the cross is kind of obscured by the county courthouse building.
Yeah, I just looked at the logo.
Yeah. So,
it also has pouring smokestacks, and that's obviously calling for the end of the
climate
world.
Change.
Yeah,
that's
and,
right.
And a broken heart, which represents the people of Lehigh County, and their reaction to what's going to happen when the progressives find out that they're, good, God-fearing people. That's what the broken heart there on the top is all about.
Bill, you just don't understand that it's a very small step. It's a very small step from allowing a cross on a county seal to A Handmaid's Tale. We're almost there.
That's right. Well, and seriously, where does it go from this? Ever been to a national cemetery where the war dead are buried?
Yes,
Yep.
I have.
You know what's on almost every single gravestone in those national cemeteries?
Yep.
Crosses and stars of David, the occasional symbol of Islam.
I have
How
not
is
seen,
that?
In any
How is that
event,
permitted?
yeah, that's exactly right. It's public land. How dare they?
Now, don't give them any ideas.
Okay, well, I guess that is going to be.
It's members, yeah.
We'll hide the cross behind the veil.
I
the
kind of
paywall.
wanna. I kind of want to run that one public too. Our members
All
have been
right.
so good about that. They're both.
Hey,
Oh, they've
I
been
don't know
begging us for that.
Bill, I don't know if you saw this, but in the zombie apocalypse episode, somebody suggested that if it's really a pledge drive month, make everything public.
Okay,
Worth a thought.
That's
a thought.
that's even better than running a Peter, Paul, and Mary concert.
that's an excellent idea.
And I wish I could remember who suggested that. I'm sorry I can't remember your name, but excellent suggestion, and I've passed that up the line for you.
Thank you very much.
All righty.
Okay, great.
So, Stephen Green, you certainly must have more than one excellent suggestion today. Or
Nope.
have you burned the only one you had?
Yeah, no, I have one story, and I knew that nobody else would take it because I made it up. No, I didn't make it up. It's just maybe it's a fresh angle on a recurring theme that has just become so blindingly obvious to everybody except the ones who suffer from it. Donald Trump has this almost mystical power to make people insane. And the latest example of it, this is going to be a two-parter on my intro. We take the segment because the first part is Roseanne Barr, and Roseanne Barr says this crazy stupid thing, and everyone goes, well, that's just Roseanne Barr being Roseanne Barr. But the latest example of just anti-Trump insanity comes from Lawrence Lessig, who you may disagree with him on
yes.
everything politically, but he's a Harvard law professor. He's a serious guy. He's got the big brain. He's come up with some serious proposals over the years. And he published something, is either on Facebook or...
Oh, he was blogging at
or
Medium.
Yeah,
Medium.
It was on Medium. And
Yeah.
I have it here. It's his 5-step plan for getting to President Hillary Clinton soon, without an
Yeah.
election. And we're going to talk about Lessig in particular, and about this ability Trump has to drive people crazy in general. So, Scott, you read the thing. You got any comments you want to say in the pre-show?
Stephen, weren't you struck by how seamless and irrefutable his arguments were? What an easy what an easy step it is from today to President Hillary Clinton.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. I mean, it's up there with the underpants gnomes from The Simpsons. You know, step 1, steal underpants. Step 2, question mark. Step 3, profit.
My favorite one, like I forget all the permutations of it, but one of them was basically, you get rid of Trump, then Mike Pence has to resign, and then Paul Ryan becomes because he's all part of it, and then because it all has to do with the
Mike
Russian
Pence
thing.
is in with the Russians.
Yeah, he's in with the Ruskies, and then. Then Paul Ryan then he becomes president of the United States, and he appoints Hillary Clinton as his vice president, and then he resigns. Voila. See how easy that was?
But the thing the Harvard law professor forgot about is the part where Congress has to approve of the new president's vice presidential pick. That's how Gerald Ford got to be vice president.
That's right, because it's not elected.
Yeah, because everybody in Congress could agree that this nice genial Republican congressman would make a nice Veep. This GOP Congress is going to just roll over for Veep Hillary.
Steve,
God, this man's a moron.
the interesting thing is his entire house of cards. Can I use that phrase? Do I have to pay anybody at HBO to use that?
Yes, you owe me $20.
The entire house of cards of his argument rests on this Russia investigation turning up something. Well, as a matter of fact, I saw in another story today that the Russia investigation did turn up something.
This is huge, too.
It seems that the FBI discovered that there were some payoffs coming from a Russian official who was in charge of their nuclear stuff. And the payoffs were going to transportation companies in the United States as well as to the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah, I can only imagine my shock.
In order to grease the skids to that deal where essentially the U.S. government gave Russia control of 20% of its uranium.
Let me just jump in. The best proof for the existence of a loving God overseeing the unwinding of human events would be if Hillary Clinton actually went to jail as a result of the investigation of the Russians that she basically launched in order to legitimize her loss. If it turned out that this investigation into Trump ties with the Russians produces the actual evidence that puts her in jail, then I'm 100% convinced that
for some reason I just heard Hillary Clinton going, "Mom, Phineas and Ferb are making a title sequence." Like
On the other hand, Bill, you don't see conservative law professors indulging in Hillary Clinton jail fantasies, going, and this is how it's going to happen. No, we're kind of, if that's where it leads, that'd be great. That'd make me so very happy. But we're not publicly coming up with these lurid fantasies and deciding that they're real.
My multi-step Hillary Clinton jail fantasy goes something like this, extremely elaborate. An investigatory agency like the FBI investigates the evidence. The evidence is presented to a court. The court agrees that there's enough cause for trial. She goes to trial. The evidence is presented in trial. She's found guilty and she goes to jail. That's my nutty, weird, twisted kind of here's how you get to the national championship kind of thing.
The hardest part is finding a jury of her peers because, man, there's not that many lowlifes in this country.
Now, and think about this. The FBI knew before the uranium deal was inked by the Obama administration. Okay, the FBI already knew because they had a mole who actually was recording and gathering documents and all that kind of stuff. So they knew that this Russian guy was dirty. They knew that he was paying off people, basically making it possible for them to get no bid contracts, and then he was administering kickbacks.
Yeah,
so,
and they buried this thing so they could get the uranium deal through.
Well, yeah, and the committee that okayed the uranium deal included Hillary Clinton and Eric Holder. Now, Eric Holder's responsibility included, for those of you who have forgotten everything, because you had one of those Men in Black pens where you could just erase the last 8 years. But Eric Holder was what? The Attorney General?
Yeah.
Who was over the FBI.
And the FBI is our domestic counterintelligence agency.
I have one of those.
In charge of little things like keeping tabs on Russian spies.
I have one of those pens, by the way, and every night before I go to bed, I give myself 3 good shots in each eye, at point blank range, and it doesn't do any good. I still have nightmares. I wake up.
Oh, Bill, I'm doing one on each eye. I tried. I put one in the Will It Blend blender, and I made a smoothie out of it. Still, nothing.
Have you tried Mace?
I need one of those Cyclops glasses that just does nothing but constantly shoot that memory eraser into my eyes all day. I'd be happy for 12 seconds.
So anyway, I think and I didn't mean to drag off topic, but I think it's interesting, Steve.
Well, no, that's the angle I'm going to give you, Scott, because I wish I'd done this story now.
Well, so no, because I think they go together because Lawrence Lessig's whole argument ties into the Russian investigation on Trump bringing him down, when in fact the FBI already has enough information to indicate that we have compromised our national security to the tune of vast sums of uranium handed over to the Russians in this kickback scheme that involved the Clinton Foundation, Eric Holder, and Hillary Clinton.
Correct.
Yep. So, Scott, I'm going to set you up for that angle, and I'm going to set Bill up for the just how stupid are these people angle. Does that sound good to everybody?
So I've got the tough one then.
I was going to say, do we have enough time for that?
You got the tough one, Bill.
Do we have enough time for is the tape long enough to record all that? All right. William Whittle. Go ahead.
Well, speaking of, having to erase your memory every night and stuff, yesterday I had a real kind of a cultural palate cleanser. I was, about 16 months ago, I took a cruise on the USS Pasadena for a day. And yesterday I helicoptered out to USS Spruance, which is a guided missile destroyer.
Lead to the class, yeah.
Actually, Arleigh Burke class. Spruant's
Oh,
class.
that's right. My bad.
No. It was a very good comment because Spruant's class pre-existed so it was Spruant's kid, Arleigh Burke, and then Zumwalt. But Arleigh Burke has now got a destroyer
Yes.
called USS Spruance because he was so important. In any event, that's where I spent the day yesterday. And the good news is, I'm going to make a firewall out of this once again. Is just the quality of the people and the harmony and the general happiness. Is just really astonishing. But what I want to talk about is what happened before we went out to the destroyer, because we got a tour of San Diego Harbor with the guy who is the admiral who's in charge of SURFPAC, Surface Forces Pacific. He's a 3-star, and there were 7 of us, 8 of us, and the admiral, and we went around the whole harbor in the morning. And let me just say one thing, because I will undoubtedly include this in the show and the firewall, but we passed 2 enormous warships. We passed a DGG going out, and I think it was one of the brand new landing craft carriers coming in.
Oh, one of the America class?
Yeah, it's gigantic. It's enormous. And
think it's
both
American.
times as we passed these vessels, anybody who was on the deck had to come over to the railing, stand at attention, and salute when the 3-star went by. And I just thought, that's I'd just be out on the boat all day, I'd just be kind of cranking around. No, but here's the serious issue. The night before, I got a chance to talk to a guy who was a commander of a fighter squadron, Navy fighter squadron, and he said that that basically about half of our aircraft are not flyable. Yeah. The ones that are deployed at sea are much better, but if we had 500 Hornets, about half of them are not flyable for lack of parts and maintenance and so on. That was alarming. And then the next morning with the admiral, we went down up and down San Diego Bay and pointed to a number of ships that were in dry dock for repairs and had been there for months and would remain there for months because there was not the capacity to get them repaired. It wasn't that there wasn't the money, there wasn't the capacity. Yeah. And I have been a fierce critic of cost plus contracting for many reasons. But basically what the admiral said was, since we don't even have a budget, since Congress can't even produce a budget, since all we have is continuing resolutions to fund us for 3 months or 6 months or maybe a year, we cannot enter into long-term contract with the civilians that are actually doing the maintenance and repair on these vessels. And since we cannot enter into a long-term contract with them, they will not hire up the staff needed to do this job quickly. They'll do it cost effectively, but they won't do it quickly. And therefore, some significant number, 15, 20, 30% of our Navy sits there waiting for the slot to get repaired. And just to put all of this into perspective, during the Reagan years, we had a 600-ship Navy, of which 100...
Ooh, no, we didn't.
Well, we had a 500...
You wanted to build up to that, but
we got very close.
We were at about 350 or 380.
No, we were much higher than that. We were much higher than that.
I'll look it up, but we were.
Okay, now we were in the 500s. In any event, we were... This is what the 3-star admiral, in terms of SURFPAC, told me. I'm going to go with him on this one.
I'm going to trust Steve.
But in any event, just let's put it this way. We had a much, much larger Navy than we have today. Much, much larger. It was almost
in better shape.
It was almost 600 ships. But the point is, of that 600-ship Navy, 100 of them were deployed at any given time. Today, we deploy about 100 ships out of a 270-ship Navy. So we are basically asking the ships, the crews, everybody else to do double work, and readiness is suffering. The crews are super, but basically, I'm just going to call this segment "Here We Come, Ready or Not." And
so the fighter squadrons, Bill, what would be a decent percentage that in the Reagan's second term, let's say, or shortly thereafter, what would have been the going percentage rather than 50% being unflyable at any given time? I would assume there's repairs constantly needed on these complicated vehicles.
Let me clarify that. I should have clarified that. That doesn't mean I said it incorrectly. It's not that 50% of the total fleet is unflyable, but of the percentage of the total number of airplanes that are on ground, on on naval bases as opposed to out at sea, half of those are not flying. Naval Station Lemoore was the specific example, which is where they basically take all the Hornets for maintenance, and there are squadrons that rotate in and out of the fleet from Lemoore, and Lemoore's probably got half of their Hornets flyable. So to answer your question, the Hornet was designed in the 70s, and put into action in the 80s. That the Tomcats were retired because pilots were getting killed because the maintenance were running out of parts. And the explanation for this is profound, I thought. Basically what happens is, I'm going to invent the numbers, but let's say that we buy an aircraft and we expect to get 100,000 flight hours out of it. That's an unrealistic number. Let me pick another one.
Yeah, we
10,000.
shoot for.
Let's just
they
say
promise about 8,000, and we get double that with rebuilding and stuff.
Okay, so let's say that we buy a brand new F-18 Hornet, and we are going to get 8,000 flight hours out of this aircraft. Fantastic. Well, we bought all these aircraft, and then 9/11 happened, and the kinetic wars in Afghanistan and Iraq happened. And the 8,000 flying hours, which for the sake of the argument, let's say, was supposed to last 20 years, we burned through in 4 years, 5 years. We basically ran those airplanes out of their total lifespan so quickly, and we didn't replace them or put aside the money for the repairs or so on. So basically, what we did was we bought a 20-year lease on a car at 10,000 miles a year, and that's 200,000 miles. And we put 180,000 miles on the car in the first 3 years. And so now we have to stretch everything out. And both of these things are alarming to me. But they're also hopeful because they are not the kind of thing where if we had to build a new fleet, we'd need 15 years for it. Some of these things could be fixed quickly, but we'd have to change some of the incentive structure.
Yeah.
And we'd have to have a Congress. We'd have to have a Congress that passed a budget. Yeah.
I just took a phone call from the Navy's Pacific Command. They said that about the last 5 minutes of the show has to be bleeped out.
Hey,
I'm going
Bill,
to assume.
I'm so glad you're bringing up this topic.
I'm just going to assume that the admiral who's
for this
taking
landlubber is near and dear, and there's so many things I want to say about this topic.
Excellent. So let's go with that then.
And I'm going to, when we get to this topic in the recording, I'm going to let you guys do what you just did, which is do all the talking, because I didn't know any of that stuff. So I think I sit in on this one as probably not our average viewer, but maybe the below average viewer.
Speaking of, just very quickly, because we're running this thing like it's a half an hour show. But
geez,
we've got a yard of tape
speaking
left.
of security and what's what I can repeat and not repeat. Needless to say, when you're taking 7 strangers out on a boat cruise, we've passed some fundamental check, but nothing he tells us is not only not classified, but the reason we're there is so that we can get this out to the public. However, I was on the fantail of the Spruance with the executive officer and one of the sonar officers, countermeasures officers, and we were talking about how these things are all linked together. And I said, couldn't you have a surface vessel like Spruance just go active and just ping the hell out of things? They know where they is anyway, but then the other ping would be picked up by American subs, and those subs don't have to go active; they can remain passive. And these two guys looked at each other like, well, that would be an interesting idea. That'd be an interesting idea someday to discuss. Good idea.
Over beers after I'm retired.
At the beginning of that, I felt that Bill sounded a little bit like Thurston Howe. He was like, I was on the fantail.
I was on the fantail.
I was talking with the executive officer.
Sipping Mai Tais. And my cravat.
Lovey, bring me another martini, would you?
Little damp from the spray. My cravat got a little damp from the spray, a little discolored. So I had Lovey go downstairs and bring me another. I carry about 40.
As you've probably determined by now, this show is too good for you. And so we're going to bring it to an end right now and get ready to record this week's episodes of Right Angle, which are made possible by people like you. We not only love the fact that you're willing to put forth your hard-earned money to subscribe to this, but that you often encourage us to spread the word. Not only are you sharing and liking it, but you are actively encouraging us to tear down those walls, Mr. Gorbachev, and get the word out even further. Bill, you look like you wanted to say.
I just wanted to say, I don't know why I didn't think of this earlier. We're looking for a whole new set of time over target questions, which come from our members. So if you have a question for time over target, we're bringing those guys back one at a time, bringing everything back online with a slightly different, easier to produce format. So if you have any time over target questions and you're a member, and you are because you're watching this, just send it to info@billwhittle.com with the name that you would like to use. And if you don't want even a screen name used, we'll just put anonymous down there.
Was that technically product placement or cross promotion?
Yes.
I'm a little cloudy on which. It's both, isn't it?
What's promotion?
All right. Well, you've just been promoted to executive member at BillWhittle.com, and we thank you for what you have done for us here. We're going to get to it right now and produce some great episodes of the show for both the members at BillWhittle.com and the general public, thanks to you. For Bill Whittle, Stephen Green, and the rest of the Right Angle team here at BillWhittle.com, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks for watching.